It's Hollywood's darkest secret. One week, they're America's favorite TV star. The next, they're a ghost, completely erased from the script. This is the Chuck Cunningham Syndrome, a chilling phenomenon that swallows actors whole. We're now exposing the shocking stories of stars who were cast into oblivion, never to be seen again.
Number 1. Jamie Foxworth.
For 4 seasons, she was Judy Winslow, the youngest daughter of the beloved Winslow family on the 90s mega hit Family Matters. She was cute, she delivered her lines, and she was an integral part of the show's initial family dynamic. Then, as the character of Steve Urkel grew from a nerdy neighbor into a global phenomenon, the show's focus shifted dramatically. The storylines began to revolve almost exclusively around his slapstick antics and his relationship with the older Winslow kids. Suddenly, the youngest daughter had less and less to do. Then, something totally unexpected happened. At the end of season 4, Judy Winslow walks upstairs to her room and is never seen, heard from, or even mentioned by her own family for the remaining 5 seasons of the show. She was completely and totally erased, the most blatant example of the Chuck Cunningham Syndrome a character has ever suffered. Sadly, Jamie Foxworth's real-life story took an even darker turn. After being written off the show, she struggled to find new acting roles. As she grew older, she faced immense personal and financial difficulties, a tragic trajectory that led her into the adult film industry in the early 2000s. It was a shocking development for fans who remembered her as the sweet little girl from a wholesome family sitcom. In recent years, she has spoken openly about her struggles with depression and substance abuse and has worked to rebuild her life away from the entertainment industry, becoming a mother and sharing her cautionary tale. While Jamie's character was erased, our next star was the nerdy best friend on one of the most acclaimed shows of all time, who left Hollywood for a completely different kind of practice. Number 2. Josh Saviano. Every 80s kid remembers Kevin Arnold's loyal, brainy, and perpetually allergic best friend, Paul Pfeiffer, on the beloved sitcom The Wonder Years. With his oversized glasses and unwavering support for his pal Kevin, Josh Saviano created one of the most iconic nerd characters in television history. He was the perfect comedic foil and the relatable heart of the show's friendship dynamic. For 6 seasons, he was a familiar face in millions of homes, a quintessential part of a show that defined a generation's nostalgia for the 60s. When the show ended, fans expected to see Saviano pop up in other roles, continuing what seemed to be a promising career. But then, he simply vanished from the screen. A real-life case of the Chuck Cunningham Syndrome. The wild part is, for years, a persistent urban legend claimed that Saviano had grown up to become the controversial rock star Marilyn Manson. This rumor became so widespread that it's still one of the first things people associate with his name. The truth, however, is far less scandalous and far more impressive. Saviano decided to leave the acting world behind to pursue his education. He attended Yale University, where he majored in political science, and then went on to get his J.D. from the Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law. Josh Saviano chose the courtroom over the camera. Number 3. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. In the mid-90s, no teen magazine was complete without a picture of Jonathan Taylor Thomas, affectionately known as JTT. As Randy Taylor, the witty, intellectual middle son on Tim Allen's ratings powerhouse Home Improvement. He was the ultimate teen heartthrob. His face was on posters, lunchboxes, and the cover of every issue of Tiger Beat. He was not just a sitcom star, he was a cultural phenomenon, even voicing young Simba in Disney's blockbuster The Lion King. He had charisma, comedic timing, and a massive fan base that guaranteed a long and prosperous career in Hollywood. He was on top of the world, and then everything flips upside down. In 1998, at the height of his fame, JTT decided to leave Home Improvement before its final season to focus on his education. This move was shocking to fans and reportedly caused friction with his TV dad, Tim Allen. After his departure, JTT's roles became increasingly sporadic. He attended Harvard, spent a semester abroad in Scotland, and eventually graduated from Columbia University. He effectively walked away from the superstardom that most actors spend their entire lives chasing, the most famous case of a self-imposed Chuck Cunningham Syndrome of the 90s. You won't believe what came next. Instead of returning to the spotlight, he has remained almost completely private, occasionally directing a TV episode or taking a small guest role, but never attempting to reclaim his A-list status. JTT chose a life of quiet study, but his on-screen younger brother also left the business, though his journey took a much stranger and more controversial path. Number 4. Taron Noah Smith. He was Mark Taylor, the youngest and most sensitive of the 3 Taylor brothers on Home Improvement. For 8 seasons, audiences watched Taron Noah Smith grow up on screen, from a cute little kid into a brooding, gothic teenager. He was an essential part of the family dynamic, often the butt of his older brother's jokes, but also the character with a unique, artistic sensibility. When the show ended, he was a young man with a multi-million-dollar trust fund and a recognizable face, seemingly set for life. Here's where it all takes a sharp turn. Smith's post-sitcom life became a tabloid headline generator. At just 17, he married Heidi Van Pelt, a woman 16 years his senior, a move that caused a major rift with his parents. He sued them for control of his $1.5 million trust fund, alleging they were squandering his money. The couple started a business making vegan cheese and eventually divorced. Smith later had run-ins with the law, including a DUI arrest. He spoke openly about the immense difficulty of growing up in the spotlight and the disorienting feeling of having his childhood broadcast to the world. He ultimately left the entertainment industry entirely, a clear victim of post-fame whiplash. The Taylor brothers both left the business. Number 5. Jason Zimbler. For any kid who grew up with Nickelodeon in the early 90s, Ferguson W. Darling was the quintessential annoying little brother. As Ferg Face on the hit show, Clarissa Explains It All, Jason Zimbler was the nerdy, conniving, and hilariously uncool sibling to Melissa Joan Hart's effortlessly cool Clarissa. With his smug grin, his devotion to get-rich-quick schemes, and his constant political maneuvering, Ferguson was a character you loved to hate. Zimbler's comedic timing was perfect, and his on-screen chemistry with Hart was the heart of the show's family dynamic. He was an iconic face of 90s kids television. After the show wrapped, Zimbler, like many of his peers, seemed to fall off the face of the earth. He didn't pop up in other teen shows or movies, leaving fans to wonder what happened to Clarissa's nerdy nemesis. From the outside, it seemed simple, until you dig deeper. Zimbler had decided to take a path very different from his Hollywood beginnings. He enrolled at the University of Notre Dame, where he earned a degree in business administration and a master's in theater directing. After a brief stint directing theater in New York, he found his true calling in a completely unexpected field: software design. Today, Jason Zimbler is a successful software designer for HBO, the company behind some of the most acclaimed television shows in the world. Ferguson Darling went from sitcoms to software. Number 6. Gavin O'Herlihy. Before Fonzie was the king of cool, before Richie was the all-American teen, and before the Cunninghams were a family of 4, they were a family of 5. In the first season of the legendary sitcom Happy Days, Richie and Joni had an older brother named Chuck Cunningham. He was the jock, the basketball player, the cool older sibling. He would walk on screen, dribble a basketball, say a line or two, and then disappear. And then came the part nobody expected. After a handful of appearances, he literally walked upstairs with his basketball and was never seen again. The character was so inconsequential that the show's creators simply wrote him out, and the family acted as if he never existed, creating the most famous running gag in television history. The actor who first played him, Gavan O'Herlihy, was an Irish-born actor who reportedly didn't want to be stuck in a minor, one-dimensional role. He asked to be written out to pursue more serious film work. O'Herlihy went on to have a respectable, if not star-studded career, appearing in films like Willow, Never Say Never Again, and Superman III. He eventually moved back to the UK and largely retired from the public eye, but his legacy as the original Chuck is immortal. His decision to leave a show that would become a cultural juggernaut is a fascinating what-if story. Chuck Cunningham was written out intentionally. Number 7. Tina Yothers. As Jennifer Keaton, the youngest and initially most conventional of the Keaton children on the 80s classic Family Ties, Tina Yothers grew up in front of millions. She was the adorable, down-to-earth sister to the intellectual Mallory Justine Bateman and the famously conservative Alex P. Michael J. Fox. For 7 seasons, she was the relatable anchor in a family of big personalities, a familiar face in one of the decade's most successful and acclaimed sitcoms. Her role earned her a Young Artist Award and a level of fame that most child actors only dream of. When the show ended, however, Yothers didn't follow the typical path of her co-stars. While Michael J. Fox became a movie star and Justine Bateman continued to act, Tina decided to take a hard left turn away from mainstream Hollywood. What people miss is this key detail. She dyed her hair black, picked up a guitar, and formed a punk rock band called Jaded. This was a radical departure from her wholesome sitcom image, a move that shocked many of her fans. She fully embraced the rock and roll lifestyle, a world away from the sound stages of Paramount. After her music career, she largely stepped away from the public eye altogether, focusing on raising her family. Tina Yothers chose punk rock. Number 8. Crystal McKellar. On The Wonder Years, Winnie Cooper was the ultimate girl next door, the object of Kevin Arnold's affection. But every hero needs a rival, and for Winnie, that was Becky Slater. Played by Crystal McKellar, Becky was Winnie's on-again, off-again best friend, and, for a time, Kevin's scorned ex-girlfriend. She was a recurring character who made a memorable impact, perfectly capturing the fickle nature of junior high friendships and romances. As the real-life sister of Danica McKellar, who played Winnie, Crystal was part of a unique sibling dynamic on one of television's most revered shows. With her talent and Hollywood connections, a continued career in acting seemed like a logical path. But, like her co-star Josh Saviano, Crystal had other ambitions. You might think that's all, but wait. She didn't just go to college. She excelled at the highest levels of academia. She graduated from Yale University, where, like her TV rival Winnie Cooper, she studied mathematics. She then went even further, earning her law degree from Harvard Law School, one of the most prestigious law programs in the world. She went on to become a successful lawyer, working as an associate at a major law firm. Like several child stars who valued education over the glitz of Hollywood, Crystal McKellar proved that the intelligence her characters sometimes displayed on screen was more than just acting, disappearing from the public eye into a world of books and legal briefs in a classic case of the Chuck Cunningham Syndrome. Number 9. Mike Lookinland and Susan Olsen. They were Bobby and Cindy Brady, the youngest members of the iconic Brady Bunch. For 5 seasons, Mike Lookinland and Susan Olsen were 2 of the most recognizable child actors on the planet. As the earnest, often troubled Bobby and the lisping, adorable Cindy, they were the little ones in TV's most wholesome family. Their on-screen lives were full of simple problems and neat 30-minute resolutions. The show became a cultural touchstone, and its stars were immortalized as archetypes of American family life. But after the show ended and the various Brady reunions and spin-offs faded, both Lookinland and Olsen struggled with the shadow of their iconic roles. The real shocker was still to come. Lookinland battled alcoholism for years, a direct result of the difficulty he had adjusting to a normal life after being a famous child star. He eventually found sobriety and a surprising new career. He left Los Angeles, moved to Utah, and started a business making decorative concrete countertops. Olsen, too, stepped away from acting, finding work as a graphic artist, a radio host, and becoming an outspoken animal welfare advocate. Number 10. Rick Moranis. He was one of the most beloved comedic actors of the 80s. From his early days on the legendary sketch comedy show SCTV to his iconic roles as Louis Tully in Ghostbusters, Dark Helmet in Spaceballs, and the nerdy dad in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Rick Moranis was a box office giant. His unique brand of adorkable, nerdy charm made him a household name. He was a bona fide movie star, a rare talent who could carry a family film or steal scenes in a blockbuster comedy. His career was on a trajectory that promised decades of success. And then everything flips upside down. In 1991, Moranis' wife, Ann Belsky, tragically passed away from cancer. Moranis tried to juggle his film career with being a single father to their 2 young children, but he found it impossible. In 1997, he made a decision that was almost unheard of in Hollywood. He took a step back from acting to focus on raising his kids. What he intended to be a short break turned into a decades-long hiatus. He effectively vanished from the screen, turning down offers for major roles, including a spot in the Ghostbusters reboot. His willing retreat into the Chuck Cunningham Syndrome made him a Hollywood legend for an entirely different reason. He did occasional voice work but remained committed to his role as a full-time father. Number 11. Phoebe Cates. While she was primarily a film star, Phoebe Cates' impact on 80s pop culture was so immense that she became an inescapable presence. Her friendly face a staple of television interviews and magazine covers. She became an icon with her roles in films like Gremlins and, most famously, the coming-of-age classic Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Her girl-next-door charm, combined with an unforgettable poolside scene, made her one of the most popular actresses of her generation. She was talented, beautiful, and on the fast track to a long and successful career in Hollywood. Just when it all seemed figured out and her career was in high gear, she made a surprising choice. After marrying fellow actor Kevin Kline in 1989, she began to slow down her career. By the mid-90s, after the birth of their second child, she had effectively retired from acting altogether to focus on being a mother. It all boils down to this one twist. Unlike many who fade away due to a lack of roles, Cates made a conscious and deliberate decision to leave the industry. In 2005, she channeled her creative energy into a new venture, opening a popular and beloved boutique called Blue Tree on New York's Madison Avenue. Number 12. Sasha Mitchell. On the 90s family sitcom Step by Step, he was Cody Lambert, the lovable, dim-witted nephew who lived in a van in the driveway. With his signature catchphrase, "Whoa," and his surfer dude charm, Sasha Mitchell was a fan favorite and a key part of the show's comedic ensemble. His character was the classic himbo, a well-meaning goofball who provided comic relief and a surprising amount of heart. Before the show, he had also taken over the lead role from Jean-Claude Van Damme in the Kickboxer film series, establishing himself as a legitimate martial artist. His career was thriving. But here's where everything flips upside down. Mitchell's personal life began to make headlines for all the wrong reasons. In the mid-90s, he was embroiled in a tumultuous and highly public domestic dispute with his then-wife, which led to his arrest and a conviction for spousal abuse. The scandal was a major blow to his wholesome family sitcom image. In response to the controversy, the producers of Step by Step fired him from the show. His character was unceremoniously written out, a sudden and jarring departure that left viewers confused. A classic case of a character forced into the Chuck Cunningham Syndrome due to the actor's off-screen behavior. though he would later return for a guest spot in the final season after his legal issues were somewhat resolved. His career never fully recovered from the scandal. Number 13. Lisi Göransson. For the first 5 seasons of the groundbreaking sitcom Roseanne, Lisi Göransson was Becky Connor, the smart, strong-willed, and often sarcastic eldest daughter. She was a perfect foil for Roseanne's brash humor and Dan's easygoing nature, and her on-again, off-again romance with Mark Healy was a central storyline. She was a key part of one of the most successful and critically acclaimed shows on television. A young actress with a bright future ahead of her. And then, something totally unexpected happened. Göransson decided to leave the show to attend Vassar College. This was a major decision for a young star on a hit series. The producers were faced with a dilemma. Instead of writing the character out, they took a highly unusual and now legendary approach. They recast the role with a new actress, Sarah Chalke. The deeper you look, the stranger it gets, because Göransson would later return to the show, sharing the role with Chalke. One week, Becky would be played by Lisi. The next, she'd be played by Sarah, a fact the show began to lampshade with hilarious, fourth-wall-breaking inside jokes. This created a real-life Chuck Cunningham Syndrome in reverse, where a character was so essential they couldn't be let go, even when the original actor vanished. Number 14. Angel Conwell. In the mid-90s, Dave's World, based on the life of Pulitzer Prize-winning humorist Dave Barry, was a solid family sitcom. The show starred Harry Anderson and Delane Matthews, but for many younger viewers, a key character was Ashley, the best friend of one of the main children. Played by the talented young actress Angel Conwell, Ashley was a recurring character who made a memorable impression with her charm and comedic timing. Conwell was a promising young star, also appearing in other shows and seeming poised for a bigger breakout role as she grew older. She was a familiar face in the landscape of 90s family television. After her time on the show and a few other roles, Conwell's career took a different direction. What people miss is this key detail. While many child actors either leave the business entirely or struggle to find work, Conwell successfully transitioned into a long and steady career, but one that took her away from the primetime sitcom spotlight and into a different television universe. She became a fixture in the world of daytime soap operas, most notably starring as attorney Leslie Michelson on the long-running CBS drama The Young and the Restless for several years. She has also appeared in numerous films targeted at African-American audiences. Angel Conwell found a new home in daytime TV. Number 15. Brandon Call. As J.T. Lambert on the popular TGIF sitcom Step by Step, Brandon Call was a familiar face to millions of 90s kids. He played the lazy, underachieving but ultimately good-hearted son of Patrick Duffy's character, Frank Lambert. For 7 seasons, he was a central part of the blended family comedy, known for his sarcastic wit and his constant scheming with his siblings. Prior to Step by Step, he had already been a successful child actor, with roles on shows like Baywatch and Magnum, P.I. He was a seasoned professional with a long career ahead of him. The show was a huge hit, and Call navigated the tricky transition from child actor to teen actor successfully. But here's where everything flips upside down. In 1996, while driving home from a taping, Call was involved in a bizarre and terrifying incident. He was shot in both arms in what appeared to be a random drive-by shooting. He made a full recovery and bravely returned to work on the show. However, the traumatic event seemed to have a profound impact on his perspective. When Step by Step ended its run in 1998, Brandon Call retired from acting completely. He has never returned to the screen and has lived a completely private life ever since, reportedly running a gas station and car wash in California. Number 16. Maya Bruton. In the early 90s, Parker Lewis Can't Lose was the epitome of cool. With its surreal, cartoonish humor and its charismatic lead, the show was a hit with younger audiences. But every cool hero needs a quirky sidekick, and for Parker Lewis, that was Shelley Lewis, his precocious and brilliant little sister. Played by Maya Bruton, Shelley was a fan favorite. With her high-tech gadgets, her encyclopedic knowledge, and her signature trench coat, she was like a miniature secret agent, often helping her big brother get out of impossible situations. Bruton had already achieved fame as the Thor-obsessed little girl in the 80s movie classic Adventures in Babysitting. Her role as Shelley solidified her status as a talented and recognizable young actress. But just when it all seemed figured out, and a long acting career seemed certain, Maya Bruton made a different choice. After Parker Lewis ended, she essentially retired from acting to focus on her education. It all boils down to this one twist. She went to Yale University and then pursued a law degree. Number 17. Charlie Korsmo. A familiar face in the early 90s, Charlie Korsmo was a talented child actor who appeared in a string of major Hollywood films. He is best known for his role as Jack Banning, the son of Peter Pan, in the 1991 Steven Spielberg fantasy adventure Hook. Before that, he played the kid in the comic book adaptation Dick Tracy and also had a memorable role in the comedy What About Bob? With his intelligent and slightly cynical screen presence, Korsmo was a standout performer who seemed destined for a long career. However, after his role in Hook, Korsmo made a decisive break from the entertainment industry. In a move that surprised many, he chose to prioritize his education over his acting career. He completely stepped away from the spotlight, enrolling at the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, where he earned a degree in physics. But his academic pursuits didn't stop there. Korsmo went on to graduate from Yale Law School, building a distinguished career in law and academia. He has since become a professor of corporate law and corporate finance at the Case Western Reserve University School of Law, a path that took him far from the film sets of his childhood. Number 18. Lisa Whelchel. She was Blair Warner, the beautiful, wealthy, and often snobbish queen bee of the Eastland School for Girls on the long-running hit sitcom The Facts of Life. For 9 seasons, Lisa Whelchel played one of the most memorable characters of the 80s. Blair's journey from a spoiled rich girl to a more mature and compassionate young woman was a central theme of the show. Whelchel's comedic timing and her ability to make a sometimes unlikable character lovable earned her immense popularity. She was a quintessential 80s television star and even released a Christian pop album during the show's run. After the show ended its incredibly successful run, a continued career in television or film seemed a certainty for Whelchel. But right when it seemed like the end of one chapter was the beginning of another, that's when the real story started. Whelchel chose a different path entirely. A devout Christian, she decided to step away from acting to focus on her marriage and raising her children, becoming a prominent author and speaker in the Christian community, focusing on topics of motherhood and faith. Lisa Whelchel found a new calling in her faith. Number 19. Michael Fishman. He was DJ Connor, the youngest child and only son of the Connor clan, on the groundbreaking sitcom Roseanne. Michael Fishman was just 6 years old when he landed the role, and for 9 seasons, audiences watched him grow from a quirky, often ignored little boy into a teenager navigating the chaos of his working-class family. He was a key part of the show's realistic and often unflinching portrayal of American family life. His character was never the focus of major storylines, but his presence was a constant, a quiet observer in a house full of loud personalities. When Roseanne ended its original run, Fishman, unlike his on-screen sisters, did not aggressively pursue a continued on-screen acting career. He seemed to simply fade from the public view, a victim of the same Chuck Cunningham Syndrome that affects many child actors when their defining show ends. But what people miss is this key detail. He never actually left the industry. Instead, he found a passion for working behind the camera. He learned about every aspect of production, from camera work to set design, and eventually became a successful television producer and director. Michael Fishman found success behind the scenes,